Hello class, here's another little tutorial. Uh, we did a car last week, but I'm just going to go back over it again. We had Kias, we had Mercedes, we had every version of car you could think of. You know, when you draw cars, it doesn't have to look exactly like the car, but it needs to at least look like a car. So uh, I'm just going to show you one from the side, and then I'll do another one if you're looking at the car or at the car from an angle. Okay, the first thing you want to do is visualize. Remember, 75% looking, 25% drawing. So the first thing you want to visualize is a box that encloses this car. You visualize that, and if you have to draw those light lines, do so. So those are the proportions I'm going to get on my paper down here. So I'll make it a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm doing. So what I do first is just kind of draw the top line. I'm drawing this darker so that you can see it. You know, I would even, in my sketch, I might even draw those in very light, but okay, so I've got the height of the car, and I can draw this corner back here. What I have to do is determine where this line is. As I look at this, I can see there's the height of the car right about here, and there it is again. So it's not quite halfway. So it looks like maybe about this much right here. This is the kind of stuff you're going to eyeball. You're not going to measure and take the time to take a piece of paper or your thumb and get it exact. You have to develop that ability to see proportions. To me, that's close enough, okay? But take the time, and you're going to sketch light lines, very light, and then if you need to correct it, okay, I can maybe move it in a little bit, okay? So this bottom line is going to be where the tires hit, okay? You want to have that line drawn in, or at least have it visualized, but I would go ahead and draw the line in there. That way you got something to work with. And then locate, just visually, the center of each tire. Okay, the center of each tire looks like it's about right about in this area. And the back tire is actually closer to the back of the vehicle than the front. If you look at it, this is the seeing part. It's noticing the distances. Take the time to say, how far is that away from this and that sort of thing. So it's a little bit closer to the back than the front. So there's the center of the tire. Now the tire, as I look at it, it's about this tall in relation to the whole car. It's not quite halfway. It's a little less than halfway. So I'm saying right about here's the height of the tire. Okay, so here's the center of the tire. Here's the height of it. Don't try to draw a circle like this, because if it's such a uniform line, if it looks off, it's going to look even worse. Use your whole arm. Go around a couple times, just kind of generally get it in there, but you'll draw a better circle with your whole arm than if you go like this and you're off and all of a sudden you got one of these. That's not a tire, okay? But it's a sketch, so the watercolor is going to carry a lot of this through. And I'm going to draw in a thinking line just so I make sure I get the tires the same size. Now, I'm a little close to the end here. Let me move that over a little bit. So here's the center line of my tire. Use your whole arm, go around 3 or 4 times, get it kind of right there. That's close enough. You got to get in the mode of using your whole arm, and don't try to draw like this because it's going to look inaccurate. This doesn't look inaccurate because there's so many lines in that sketch. And this you're doing loose. In my sketchbook, these would be very light lines, if at all. Okay, but the 2 wheels help you orient the rest of the car. The bottom of the car, if I look at it, this is the looking part. I can see that the bottom of the car is below the center of the wheel. Here's about the center of the wheel right in here. See, this is the looking part. So that's down about in here. There's the bottom of the car. Let's move up to the very top of the car. Okay, so let's locate this point right here on the hood. That's above center. Here's my center line of the vehicle. So it's right about here. So that's about where the hood begins, right about there. Let's mark where the windshield starts. I'm seeing the windshield actually changing direction right here, right about even with the tire. So right about up here is where the windshield changes direct, or the hood transitions into the windshield. And you can see there's a little bit of an angle to it, okay? So I'm going to come up with a little bit of an angle. See, I'm just kind of roughing it in. I'm not trying to draw the exact line. I see a lot of you are still trying to draw like this and make the perfect line. That's not a sketch. You're trying to make it too perfect, and you're defeating the whole purpose of a sketch. A sketch is to loosen up, and you draw the line several times. You kind of self-correct as you go, and finally you get one that looks pretty good. Okay. And then the windshield starts here, and it looks like the apex, or the highest part of the roof, is right about here, slightly off center. So I'm right about in here. So there's the top of the roof, the high point of the roof. And so I can kind of come up something like that. Okay. Now I'm going to come back to this part. This angles down to that same point that the tire was level with, right about there. I can round that off later. And then this drops down at a slight angle. And then the whole thing angles back again toward the tire. And then you've got the wheel well, which is concentric. In other words, it's the same curvature as the wheel. Got the same thing back here. From the top, it angles down. Got the little spoiler out here. And then this is almost straight down. Angles back where they don't make bumpers anymore, but where a bumper would be. Okay. Okay, so at least I don't have a Kia. Then you can, now if I were drawing this car and going to watercolor it, I wouldn't draw in, see the thickness of this, what do they call it, a cowling or something around the wheel well. There's a piece of plastic. I would use my watercolor and draw that in. You know, if you have to, you could draw a light line in. When you sketch, if you put too many lines in, you end up with too much of a black, heavy outlined drawing. Once you get a little better at sketching, you can leave out a lot of the lines. Now I'll put in where the windows are. That looks like that goes exactly straight across. And this point right here, look how that's right above the center of the wheel. And this seeing part, you do the same thing with a building. It's no different. I'm looking at relationships, looking at what thing is lined up with something else. This is halfway distance across this, that sort of thing. And then there's a little bit of thickness to that frame around the window. Like that. The door comes out a little bit. This door kind of angles over. I'm over a little bit too far. Okay, got a handle. Now notice if I'm going to watercolor this, my drawing is a little short on this end. I'm off in proportion. Not going to worry about it. But I wouldn't draw in all the detail. I would use the watercolor to do that and put a splash of color in there. And maybe you got the outside mirror. There's an inner circle, an inner concentric circle that shows where the hubcap is. And I've got kind of a 5-pointed star in here. So I'm not putting any of the detail in. I'm just counting 5 points in a star. Close enough. And I would do the rest of the detail with the watercolor. Now, to make this look a little more realistic, I do see some of that back tire on the other side of the car. And, you know, and I've got the trim has got some thickness, and you got a headlight in here. You know, you can put all that stuff in. Okay. I think I started. Okay. That's close enough. So if I was going to watercolor this, for me to, I don't want to make a realistic drawing. Okay. That's just my nature. If I want it realistic, I'll just take a photograph. So if I was going to watercolor this, I would wet the entire car, except places that are black or places where there's the glass or places where the light is going to be. But I would wet this whole thing. And then I would just lay my color on there and almost treat it like a sky and just let the color go where it does. And then I might take a brush, see the highlight right here? I might take a dry brush and maybe lift off some of that color. I could run my brush right along here. Okay. That's how I would do it. And then I would take the black and do the tires and that sort of thing. You can kind of play around with that. But that's basically laying out a car. Okay. I'm going to stop this video, and I can see where my hood is a little out of proportion. You know, I've got a little bit too long of a hood. Okay. So that's this video. I'll do another one on doing a car from an angle. You know, unless you're going to actually make the drawing of a car the focal point, most of your cars are going to kind of just be there. You want it to be a suggestion of a car. And it doesn't matter whether it actually looks like the car or not, as long as it looks like a believable car and it doesn't look like a roller skate or a lump, a red lump with 4 wheels on it. Okay, so that's the end of that. But the main thing is box it in, start with the wheels, and look for relationships. This is even with this is on top of that. Okay, but that box is something you could sketch in, or at least get an idea by using some dots. Okay, that's the location of this point right here, a dot. I'm making the dots bigger. Locating, you know, the center of the wheel so you get those lined up, and draw in this thinking line so that you get the wheels the same size. Nothing looks worse than having a car with one wheel that big and the other wheel this big. You know, you got a car in here. Now, what I would do, here's what I'll suggest you do. Draw the car the way I did it. And I know you're going to take your time because you want it to be perfect. But then get another sheet of paper. Don't draw the box. Grab another sheet of paper. So your second exercise, I want you to draw this, you know, and pick out any car off the internet, you know, just any old car. But if you Google side view of cars, you'll get a whole bunch of them. Next, try something that's more the size of what you're going to have in your drawings. I'm just going to start sketching this. And I do the same thing. If, say, there's a building back here, and here's a curb, and there's a car sitting right here. Maybe I'm going to have the car as part of my composition. You know, I got some windows, and the car is sitting right here. You do want to put in at least, you know, remember if the curb is here, the car is out away from the curb. So here's my baseline. At least start the wheels. And if you're looking at this in an actual photograph or a real scene, you're going to gauge how tall is this car in relation to the building. Okay, I'm looking at this thing and I can see my car is about this tall. That's about all I need. I know the wheels are about less than half the size of the car. Put those in, and I'm just sketching quick. I just want a car, a believable car. I'm not going to try to match the car that it is, you know. Quick. There's the mirror, a little bit of detail on the tire, and I'm just kind of faking some kind of a wheel. You don't want a lot of black, because you'll end up with a real heavily drawn car that looks too much black. Leave it open, and you don't have to draw in the entire line, just kind of a quick, it's a guide for you to remember where the car is. That would be done for me right there. Okay. I'm ready to watercolor that. And remember, I keep telling you that after you're done, well, it needs a little more detail on the wheels. You can do it after the watercolor is done. Okay. You want to keep it loose, at least in proportion. That's the main thing, is the proportion. So it looks believable, okay? I'll do another video on a car from an angle. So that's that.